You are a king, and you are building a fairy tale. Not ruling a kingdom, not leading armies, not sitting in council with your ministers, you have lost interest in all of that. Instead, you are pouring the entire fortune of your royal house, and then borrowing far beyond it, into the construction of impossible, dreamlike castles in the mountains, soaring white towers on crags above the clouds, halls of gold and swans and painted legends, a grotto with an underground lake, a throne room built for a king who barely rules. You sleep through the day and wake at night. You dine alone, but you set places for imaginary guests, the dead kings and heroes of the past, and you talk to them. You travel through the winter mountains in a golden sleigh, in the small hours, dressed in the costume of a vanished age. You are one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in Europe, and you are slipping, year by year, into a private world of beauty, fantasy, and isolation so complete that your own government will soon declare you insane and try to take everything away. You are the Mad King of Bavaria, and this is a day in your strange and tragic life in the year 1880. Using advanced AI trained on the historical records of the Bavarian royal court, the surviving castles and their plans, the accounts of those who served and knew the king, and the documents surrounding his life and mysterious death, we have reconstructed a day in the life of the fairy tale king. But first, you must understand how a king came to abandon the world of waking men for a world of dreams. You became king when you were young, barely more than a boy, strikingly handsome, tall, romantic, and entirely unsuited to the cold business of ruling. From the beginning, you cared not for politics or war, but for beauty, for music, for legend, for art, for the great romantic operas of a composer whose work you adored above all things, and whom you rescued from his debts and made your friend and obsession. The real world disappointed you at every turn. Your kingdom was caught up in the great wars and politics of the age, and you watched, helpless and unwilling, as your once independent kingdom was drawn into the orbit of a powerful new neighboring empire, your real power as a king draining away, leaving you with the crown and the wealth but less and less of the actual authority. And so you turned away from the world that had disappointed you. If you could not be a true ruling king in the modern world, you would be a different kind of king, a king of an imaginary, perfect, beautiful realm of your own creation, retreating ever deeper into a private kingdom of fantasy that you would build, stone by stone, in the mountains of your land. You wake not in the morning, but in the evening, for you have inverted day and night entirely. Over the years you have come to live by night and sleep by day, rising as the sun sets, conducting your strange life in the hours of darkness, alone with your dreams. Your servants have learned to live by this inverted clock, attending to a master who dines at midnight and retires at dawn. You rise in one of your castles, the great fortress of your imagination, perched high on a rocky crag, its white towers and turrets rising like something from a storybook, the most beautiful castle in the world, built to embody the legends and operas you love. Its rooms are overwhelming in their richness, a vast hall painted with scenes from the old romantic legends of knights and swans and grail quests, a study, a throne room of breathtaking splendor, glittering with gold and mosaic, and a great chandelier like a crown. And yet, strangely, the throne itself was never installed, for the throne room, like so much of your fantasy, was a stage set for a kingship that was more dream than reality. You move through these magnificent, mostly empty halls, the only inhabitant of a palace built for the imagination, a real king living inside a fairy tale of his own making. You take your meals alone, but you are not always alone in your mind. Your dinners are served with the full ceremony, due a king, elaborate dishes, fine wines, a table set with silver and crystal, but there is no one else at the table. Or rather, there is no one else that anyone can see. For it is said that you sometimes set places for guests who are not there, the great kings and figures of the past whom you admire, long-dead monarchs and heroes of history and legend, with whom you converse across the empty table, as real to you in your imagination as any living courtier. You have a particular device in one of your castles, an ingenious mechanical table that can be lowered through the floor into the kitchens below, set with food, and raised back up fully laden, so that you can dine without servants present, without having to see or be seen by another living soul, eating in perfect solitude, attended by machinery rather than people. Your isolation grows deeper year by year. You shun company, avoid your court, recoil from the public duties of a king, and retreat ever further into a world of one, a world of beauty and fantasy, and the company of imaginary guests from a vanished, more glorious age. The great passion that consumes you and consumes your fortune is building. You are obsessed with creating the perfect castles of your dreams, and you spend without limit, without restraint, without any thought for cost, to make your fantasies real in stone and gold. One castle is your storybook fortress in the mountains, dedicated to the world of medieval legend and romantic opera. Another is a dazzling palace built in imitation of the most magnificent royal palace of the age, a glittering monument to the absolute kings you so admire, with a hall of mirrors even grander than its model, dripping with gold and crystal. Another is a smaller, jewel-like retreat. You plan still more that will never be finished, and you fill them with wonders, an artificial grotto with an underground lake, coloured lights, and a swan boat in which you can drift across the water. The finest craftsmanship, the richest materials, the most elaborate decoration that money can buy. You spend your nights poring over plans, commissioning new wonders, demanding ever more lavish and impossible designs. The castles are the great work of your life, more real to you than your kingdom, the physical embodiment of the perfect, beautiful, dreamlike world you wish you lived in. And they are bankrupting you. In the deep of the night, you sometimes travel, and these journeys are themselves like scenes from a dream. You love the night, the solitude, the mountains, and you take strange nocturnal excursions through the winter landscape. You ride out in a magnificent golden sleigh, ornately carved and gilded, drawn by horses, with attendants in the costume of a bygone century, gliding through the snowy mountains under the moon and stars, the lanterns of the sleigh glowing in the darkness. A vision from another age moving through the silent winter night. You stage these journeys as elaborate fantasies, dressing the part, traveling through your beloved mountains in the small hours when the rest of the world is asleep, living out the romantic dream that the daylight world can never satisfy. The local peasants in the mountain villages catch glimpses of their king passing in the night, a golden sleigh and torchlight and costumed riders gliding by like an apparition. And the legend of their strange, beautiful, otherworldly king grows. For you are, despite everything, loved by many of your ordinary people who see in you not a failed ruler but a romantic, gentle, dreaming king, a figure of fairy tale, even as your ministers and your court grow ever more alarmed. And it is your ministers and your spending that are bringing the dream to its end. Your building has consumed not only the vast wealth of your royal house, but enormous borrowed sums, and you are now drowning in debt, demanding ever more money for ever more castles, threatening and pleading with your government for funds, refusing to stop. Your withdrawal from your royal duties has become near total. You will not see ministers, will not perform the functions of state, will not behave as a king is expected to behave. You govern, when you govern at all, by strange and imperious written orders from the seclusion of your mountain castles. To the practical men who run your government, you have become an impossible problem. A king who will not rule, who will not stop spending, who lives by night in a fantasy world, who must somehow be removed. And so they resolve upon a drastic and shocking step. They will declare you insane, unfit to rule, and depose you, taking the crown from your head and the castles from your hands. They assemble a report, gathering the testimony of servants about your strange habits, your isolation, your imaginary guests, your nocturnal life, your wild spending, and a panel of physicians, without ever properly examining you in person, formally pronounces you mentally ill and incapable of ruling. The end, when it comes, is sudden, strange, and shrouded in mystery to this very day. A commission arrives at your fairy tale castle to take you into custody. At first, with the help of loyal locals and servants who adore you, you are able to turn them away. But they return, and this time they seize you. You are taken from your beloved mountains and brought to a castle by a lake, held now not as a king, but as a patient, a prisoner, deposed, declared mad, your dream kingdom torn from your grasp. And then, on a single fateful evening, you go for a walk by the lake with the doctor who has declared you insane. Neither of you returns. Later that night, both your body and the doctor's are found in the shallow water of the lake. What happened in those dark hours by the water has never been explained and remains one of history's enduring mysteries. Did you take your own life in despair at the loss of everything? Did you drown trying to escape? Was there a struggle? Were you murdered, silenced, to make your removal permanent? The official verdict was suicide by drowning, but it has never satisfied everyone, for there were strange details that did not fit, and the truth of how the fairy tale king died in the lake that night may never be known. The dreaming king was dead at a tragically young age, his castles unfinished, his fantasy ended. That was a day and a life of the Mad King of Bavaria, a handsome, romantic, dreaming monarch who turned away from a real world that disappointed him and retreated into a private kingdom of beauty and fantasy, living by night and sleeping by day, dining alone with imaginary guests from the glorious past, gliding through the winter mountains in a golden sleigh, and pouring a fortune he did not have into the most beautiful and impossible castles ever built, monuments to legend and dream. He was a king who could not or would not rule, and who was destroyed for it, declared insane by the practical men who could not understand him, deposed, imprisoned, and dead in a lake under circumstances that remain a mystery to this day. And here is the final strange irony of his tragic life. The castles that ruined him, that drained his treasury and helped convince his ministers he was mad, became, after his death, the most beloved and most visited buildings in his entire land, drawing millions upon millions of visitors from across the whole world, their fame and beauty so great that one of them inspired the most famous fairy tale castle in all of popular culture. The dreaming king bankrupted himself building castles no one thought he needed. And those very castles became immortal, treasured by the world, the lasting monument to a king who was, perhaps, not so much mad as simply born into the wrong world, a man who wanted to live inside a fairy tale, and who, in the end, became one.